the stock market, meaning companies, new highs.
I'm not fucking leaving.
The show goes on.
Nuts! They're nuts! They know nothing!
An online network called Internet.
Well, it's very hip to be on the Internet right now.
Welcome, my degenerates. The rest of your life starts right now on Market Mania. The no bullshit approach to all financial markets, from Bitcoin and darknets to political betting. And of course, right here where I sit, the largest casino in the world, the U.S. stock market. I'm your host, Brian Micon, financial genius, Bitcoin since 2011, and a poker player. Joining me are my fellow degens, Brett Ritchie, and, filling in for Matt Glantz, Eric Sheets Haber. Ritchie is the head of Blitzpick, and Sheets is a longtime poker pro, end boss, and hedge fund manager. This whole thing is put together by Tony the producer, and this is Market Mania! Oh yeah! Hell of a new intro, Tony. Break something, hit a guitar riff. It is time to go. Brett Ritchie, let's get right into it. How's the markets doing today?
Let's just say Matt Glantz better stay down in Puerto Rico with that overstock pick. I sailed it all the way in yesterday and not looking so good so far. I was up to about 1040 from the $1,000 in the portfolio at one point yesterday. Feels like I'm trading crypto here with these swings, but taking a hit. Overall, the market is pretty flat today. Obviously, there's a big pump yesterday. It seems like there's a bit of a comeback on the vaccine news. People may have gotten ahead of themselves, but we are going to go and cover that in one of the topics later today.
All right. I want to see some big green candles on that Robinhood report soon. I can't wait for the first headshot day. Brett Ritchie, the Robinhood report that started with 1K. Sheets, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us on Market Mania. Top story today. I got this FTX market locked and loaded. How could you not? 16% or so, giving Trump a 16% chance to be president in February of next year. Sheets, what do you think about that?
Well, you know, we talked about this during the election show, right? The difference between, or is there a difference between what the betting markets is suggesting something has a chance of happening versus that thing's actual chance of happening, right? And whether it's the stock market, sports betting, or whatever, you know, how much of a divergence could that be? So I don't think it's so easy to say that because this market is suggesting that you can get, say, 6-1 or 8-1 on Trump, that he actually does have a 16% chance to win. The couple of things I want to mention about this particular chart you're showing me is that FTX, and you told me this when we talked about the election show, FTX is typically kind of a Trumpish type platform because a lot of the people on there are Bitcoin people and they kind of like, you know, rock the system type of people. And there's another thing that I don't know exactly how it's working, but apparently the original Trump contract was expired at 0 or something. And and they put like a kind of like a Merry Christmas gift of a new contract up there. So this could be a little of that also.
Yeah, no, that's a great story too. I mean, I don't know. It looks like it's spiking right now. I don't know.
Look at that candle while we're doing the show.
Not very statistically significant, but because she said, you know, it's kind of weird too because Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO that started FTX, he fired $5 million to Biden. Remember that, Brett?
Yeah, and also on Betfair, which is probably the most liquid market, they've traded $750 million on that same contract. That is still going, and Trump's about a 10-1 underdog over there. So he still has about 10% chance in between 10 to 15, I guess, depending where you go. I think one of the reasons for Trump's odds to be this high are because people are just wanting liquidity. Like if you bet Biden, you can either hold your shares for some unknown period of time to collect that full dollar per share, or you can sell out for between 85 to 93 cents right now. And then you get immediate liquidity, you get most of your money, and then you also hold this sort of long shot futures ticket that would pay you another full dollar per share.
Sheets, let me ask here. let me ask you, because you mentioned that FTX like just gave people shares of this Trump Feb, and you're right. Different sports books, different bets, different things had different settlements for this, and so that's certainly. I know most books that I know haven't paid out. I have heard of a couple that did. What do you think about this market? Like Brett said, for not only that hedge potential, but also you could short this too right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, these types of explanations for why is up is kind of boring. I mean, like, probably the more exciting thing to talk about is what if there's a chance that he wins, right? I mean, like there's certainly technical reasons why you could still have a bid, but you know, there's people are pricing in at least to some degree the chances that any of his Hail Marys, whether they be, you know, election fraud lawsuits or conscientious electors not voting the way they're supposed to, that they're pricing in a certain % chance that stuff happens. And we're now back to what we talked about before, that Trump creates volatility, and Trump's, you know, previous actions creates volatility. And where if a different president were in the same situation, you wouldn't be getting 60, it wouldn't be 0.16, it would be 0.02 or whatever it is. So people are pricing in some degree of possibility that some of his Hail Marys could actually happen.
So you have a bit of a legal background. What do you make of his legal chances here? What's his fight? What's his plan?
Yeah, so fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, in a previous career, I used to teach the bar exam for a living, so I was pretty in tune with a lot of this stuff, and I still keep track of this all. And as recently as 3 weeks ago, I mean, I noticed that some of these lawsuits that could happen, there is actually one of all these ridiculous lawsuits that might actually have some teeth related to the Pennsylvania contentions, and one part of it in particular. And I was kind of hoping that, you know, it would all be completely moot and he wouldn't bring the case at all. But then I thought that if he really wants to do something right for the country, he will actually bring the suit even if it doesn't matter, because I think it is an interesting question that needs to be answered with respect to how the Pennsylvania legislature could change the rules kind of unilaterally and not follow the rules regarding changing election laws.
I mean, if the leftists are going to lose their shit if this comes to fruition or even gets close to come to fruition. I mean, don't you agree?
Yeah, and again, the standard of review, I think, for whether they even hear that component of the case is a tough one, I think, for Trump to overcome. I think he does have to show that it would substantially affect the outcome or something like that. So that's why I'm saying the whole thing could be moot in the first place, which is why, in a way, I was kind of hoping it wasn't, hoping it was moot so it doesn't have to come to this. And I feel as though, I mean, it's pretty safe to say that a lot of the other states are pretty well slam dunks, right? So, but again, if it was the case that Pennsylvania was in play really, and the I say missing ballots, but and the later ballots would have put Trump over the top, I really think this could have amounted to something. And, you know, maybe that is what's getting priced in a little bit. I don't know.
What a shit show this election has been. We will never see another one. Can't help but think of the scenario where you get paid out on a Biden win, as some sports books have. Then you sailed in at like a 15-1, 10-1 Trump bet and win. I mean, I just you know, you can't. I don't think it's really a good play, but I can't help but think of the shenanigans
parlay if it hits.
Winning twice. It's not even a parlay. You win it twice. You actually should have lost. Anyway.
Brian, let me ask you something, or Brett, and I pose this question to myself and then to Twitter a little bit. Like right now, if you had to assess two different bets, you have a chance to take Biden at 4-1 on election night, right? Knowing what we knew then, right? At 9 p.m., right? Or you could take Biden now, knowing what we know now, and lay 15-1. Which is the better bet? And is it close?
I would say it's getting Biden plus 400 back then. Obviously, I think that the market just wasn't pricing in that the mail-in ballots were obviously going to be heavily favored to Biden, and or potentially election shenanigans were much more likely to have been performed by the Democratic Party.
Join us 4 years from now for Election Mania 2. We do it once every 4 years, but for now, we have to move on.
We might do one for the midterms.
That's fair. As of now, big tech under Biden is what the market has priced in. That's essentially what we think is coming. I mean, Sheets, what do you think? Does this change? I mean, does it change much? Who's president for big tech? I mean, is it moving the needle even?
I don't know. One of the things that I wanted to put in my outro, as far as my music goes, is would be Ministry. So what? Okay. And
yes, great song.
And a lot of what I do when I look at the market is when anything comes up on the news, I say, so what? Like what is really the big deal about this, or what isn't the big deal about this? And I really don't think it's really a big deal one way or another. Honestly, I think big tech is big tech. And they're going to roll regardless of who's the president. And we talked about this election night too. I mean, I feel as though the market is much less sensitive to who the president is than the news media will have you believe anyway.
I think the bigger challenge would be if the Democrats win the Senate after all, and they bring that Eye of Sauron antitrust eye back out on big tech. And as someone who's touted Facebook on this show, I'm more worried if I'm a Facebook shareholder of a full Democrat onslaught to try and break it up. So,
all right. So what moved this market? Is it a vaccine pump? Is it done? Is it over? I mean, Sheets, I know you follow the markets pretty closely. You had to have seen the roller coaster of the last couple of weeks here. What do you think about this vaccine pump?
Yeah, I mean, again, normal disclosures, right? I don't know anything, right? And
sure.
Now, with that said, I mean, this is something that, again, I'm very contrarian in nature. So, I mean, even like 5 months ago, they said, well, do you think there's going to be a sell-off, at the election? I'm like, no, the only time there's actually going to be a sell-off is the day that they actually announce the vaccine. Okay, like that's because it's gonna ramp, and that's going to be, a perfect contrarian time to sell off. But even that might be too cutesy. Maybe a lot of people were expecting that also. So once you start thinking you're being contrarian, everybody else is being contrarian. This is why I don't take big market positions, because it's a complete mind F, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, what you're seeing now, again, and this is what they're going to tell you on the news media, I guess, is your natural rotation out of all of those, COVID-friendly stocks, right? Like the Zoom and all those things. And immediately, all of a sudden, they're all of a sudden just terrible because they finally announced what we knew 5 months ago. Right, that there was going to be a vaccine, right? So it's I think a lot of it is a lot of hype. Both, all the moves one way or another. The news media will have you believe it's completely attested to the vaccine.
I love it. I love it, Cheech. You've been staring at those CNBC headlines for decades, haven't you? And it says market's up 300% because reason, and they're so confident with that reason. Well,
like I said before, I mean, when you buy a stock, you don't say when you enter your thing, on news of employment data, or selling on COVID fears, and so when they have it all ready to go. I mean, regardless of what the results are. I mean, if the market sold off huge after Biden got elected, they would say market down on news that a Biden presidency would be less friendly for the stock market. So they really have it all worked out.
And that repricing on Zoom and beyond yesterday, you got a Peloton a little bit. You gotta love it. So, all right, moving along. BCH to new lows in front just days before the hard fork. This one hits close to home because Antigua is getting BCH-ified all around me right now. And it's amazing. It's really crazy to watch. But as that's happening, you see that the currency versus Bitcoin, as it's pumping, is hitting new lows. And there's a crazy hard fork coming up in just a couple of days where it's actually unclear exactly what's going to happen there. Whether the ABC chain and the BCHN chain, are they going to be the same or different? Sheets, have you been following any of this? Do you know about BCH at all? And what are your thoughts? Did that ever cross the desk?
I gotta Google this. What are you saying? BCH?
Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Did it ever hit the desk? Ever?
These are like Singapore like currency that I brought back in February. Is that the same thing? Or I'm not sure. No, I mean, honestly, you told me I know that Bitcoin is not all that much. But why don't you tell me that, why is this, again, ministry? So what is the big deal about what you just said about BCH versus Bitcoin?
Because BCH has a lower transaction fee, and then Bitcoin still has a 1 meg cap size. So sometimes you have to pay $3, $4, $5 to make a transaction. Where BCH, you can transact for less than a penny.
I can say that
was
I
the
think
same chain before 17, then it split.
So
It's
Bitcoin
not
is going for
summed up
digital
easily.
gold. It's like slow and expensive. Bitcoin Cash is going for payments, where it's these fast, quick payments. So they're going. The branding is confusing, but they're going
And
for
Sheets,
two different
you
things.
got to see what we're doing here on the island of Antigua, because you can pay BCH at a ton of different restaurants and for services, and so
you can pay
you
cash
walk around.
too. So like, who cares?
Sure, yeah, but it's you've never seen a whole country terraformed with crypto before.
I can't
Very
believe
interesting. You
I
guys
can't
should come
believe
out
you're
and
in
see it.
Antigua. And that was like my last real vacation. I mean, to a tropical place. I mean, that place is beautiful. I mean, enjoy it.
Come out and visit us again. Now, we're going to bring in Tony, the producer here. This is another shenanigans crypto story. Mining Ethereum at airports. Got to be an energy stealing play. Tony, the producer, thanks for making the show so awesome. Welcome to Market Mania.
Yeah, thanks for letting me step in here real quick. I just wanted to point this out. I found it so amusing. I think we're going to start to see a lot of instances like this of little broom closets everywhere, IT closets everywhere. Anywhere where there's somebody's not having to pay for the power, they might set up a little farm for Ethereum or Bitcoin or Monero, and it's not that hard to do. There's a funny little picture here. Here's the guy's rig. You can see a bunch of video cards in a row just sitting in an IT closet somewhere. So I think probably in 5-10 years we're going to see a lot of high school janitors retiring on tropical islands because they just got all that free school energy. But I don't know, Mike.
How much do they make for to be a miner? I mean, is it worth doing?
So that looks like a little 7-card rig, GPU rig, like my buddy Reggie ran back in the day. It's not quite profitable versus electricity. So like that's $100 a month kind of deal. You know, it's not the printing up Lamborghinis type of thing.
Yeah, that's the question, Sheets. If you can beat the electricity cost with mining, that's the real equation at play.
That's right. So I mean, but even if it's not profitable from an electricity standpoint, it's good to own the coins because they're going to grow in value as well. So there's a value proposition there. But if you don't have to pay for it, if the airport's paying for it, well, heck, let's get our ETH on. Anyway, guys, that's all I had to say. You guys have a great show, and we'll see you on the other end.
You see what they're doing there, Sheets? It's not profitable to run in your house, but if you could just, install it at the airport you work at and steal the electricity to run it. Well,
it seems like an awful lot of work for
it is.
I mean,
mining often, a lot of people try to do it just to see it, and it is a lot of work and a lot of headache. Okay, I think everybody knows what that means. The safety glasses are on. Do not do your own research, not investment advice. Hat locked and loaded. It's the Market Mania pick of the day. All right, stack them to the top. Brett Ritchie, we don't waste any time here. What is your Market Mania pick of the day?
Well, I'm still holding on to Overstock from yesterday, currently in a bloodbath status, but there is another stock that I really like that took a big hit with this sort of tech beatdown on the vaccine news. That is Shopify, SHOP. I think this is just a really good stock. And a lot of what happened with COVID is certain trends were just accelerated within the stock market. Like Shopify, to me, this is a company that's here to stay. This isn't like necessarily a Peloton or Beyond Meat where I can really see the case for shorting it. So I like buying this Shopify dip. It dumped like 10% or something yesterday. I think that's a really good opportunity to get into Shopify.
All right. Eric Sheets Haber, thank you very much for joining us. Special guest, Market Mania. What is your pick of the day?
No pick of the day.
No pick of the day. But what I will say is just be careful. And one of these days I'll go in and we'll have some fun. I'll grill you guys on your picks and go over your investment process and stuff like that. And it's so funny, we talk about CNBC, there are little things that they throw up there. I'm really big on kind of platitudes and just kind of like making fun of stuff like this. And like when you say I'm going to buy the dip on Spotify, like for Shopify, was it? On Shopify. Be careful because, like if a stock goes from like 50 to 40 and then goes back up, you bought the dip. But if it goes from 50 to 40 to 10, you try to catch a falling knife. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not exactly just that easy. And just make sure that you have a plan. make sure that you're as disciplined at this as you were at poker, because it's
that's not going to happen. I'm just YOLO chatting into some Robinhood stocks. I like Shopify in the long term though, so I think that I think it's just a good company, and so yeah, I'm not necessarily putting a ton of thought into this. So buy my picks at your own peril.
Do your own research, ladies and gentlemen. My pick of the day is going to be Rocket Companies. It is almost a Wall Street Bets meme stock, 21.52 right now. Report earnings today. I'm a gambler. I like earnings. Your stock's going to move. I like to gamble. And so I heavy up the bag a little bit on Rocket. Why not? And then, maybe sell after hours on a pump, maybe wait till tomorrow. Probably the only day trade that I ever make, and it's probably just for straight gambling. Do your own damn research. The Quicken Loans Company, the online tax filing, get a bunch of mortgages there. You guys know Rocket Companies. All right. Thank you guys very much for listening to Market Mania. We bring this show to you Monday through Friday, damn near every single day that the markets are open. And you guys see Trump's at 17% now. The leftists are all fired up. There's a possibility of a civil war still. It's not bullshit. And you might feel tense and stressed. But I like to think of the modern day poets of our time, the rappers. And one little ditty that brings me a little bit of calm is Tupac from the Digital Underground track, Same Song. As some may remember. And it goes like this. Now I clown around when I hang around with the underground. Girls who used to frown say I'm down when I come around. Gas me, and when they pass me, they used to diss me, harass me, but now they ask me if they can kiss me. Like and subscribe to Market Mania on YouTube and follow us on Market Mania Show on Twitter. We'll see you tomorrow, if there is a tomorrow. But for now, it's lights out.
Come on, I never sleep if I don't have my medicine. Come on, I never sleep if I don't have my medicine. Come on, I never sleep if I don't have. I never sleep. Come on, I never sleep if I don't have my medicine. Come on.
Time to right the wrong. So your hands in the air if you like the song. If you're going over there, take it twice as long. Last time ain't talking about Tylenol. Oh, I bet you'd like to know. You can come around the way if you're trying to go. If you want to switch lanes for a pot of gold, or a domino, out of control. The usual. Get mad cause I'm looking at your girl.
Switch it up.
I do it so much louder than everything you've heard. Everybody heard at the word that the world wasn't turning. Act like you're in a jury. Power of attorney where I would turn in. Can't lie like Mississippi burning. Don't act like you're in a daze. I imagine it look the other way. Couldn't clear space on my mind. Was afraid of the time. Strobe light like in the moonlight. I'm in the mood right now. How about tonight? My